Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Yasbeck Ritter, and I kind of feel like I know you through all your emails and phone calls and numerous conversations and me stalking you a little bit on the internet. But this community is deeply, deeply connected through a common thread of thoracic aortic disease. When I lost John in 2003, I created the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. And so many of you have supported me as we've grown together, and you've taught me through your stories that you've generously shared and your medical knowledge and all of your personal experiences. And you've trusted us with your emotional journeys, and we appreciate it and we learn from it. And we have trusted you and shared with you through our emotional journey. And I think we need to remember that it's not always easy to share this kind of information, especially when there's sadness involved with it. And so gratitude all around for that. Thank you. We know at the JRF, John Ritter Foundation, when somebody talks about a survivor, they might mean someone who has survived a thoracic aortic dissection or has caught it in time and had it repaired. But there's also the other kind of survivor that you see sometimes in, sadly, obituaries, and where, like when John passed away, he is survived by this person, that person. So we are also kind of survivors as well. So we like to kind of put that all together. I'd like to introduce you to someone. So this is our CEO, our new CEO. Her name is Meredith Ford O'Neill. She's new to the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health, and she's shaken things up a bit in the most wonderful way. Here's her story.
Growing up, I did not know anything about it. It was the big bad wolf. It was just the big bad thing that happened to Mom. We knew the name of it. We knew it was called an aortic dissection, and that she had it, Great Aunt Ruth had it, and Granddaddy had it.
There are a few things left in cardiac surgery. Just drop whatever you're doing and come fix it. And an aortic dissection is one of them.
Your aorta has 3 layers on both sides, and basically a dissection means that 1 or 2 of the 3 layers have started to tear, and blood is running through some of the other layers throughout your body.
There's nothing you can do to really predict it. There's no test that you can get.
The dark cloud in the background has always been how many, if any, have the gene that's going to cause the dissection, and when will it manifest itself?
I'd had 3 children. We know what to look for. This is where we are.
So it was quite a shock when Linda, my wife, called me, and she was all very upset because Margaret had called her that Meredith had had a dissection.
Mine happened at about 5 a.m. and I had a searing pain in my chest. And so I was walking back to my room down the hall and my right leg went numb. And that's when I was like, something's really wrong here. I was 37 and a half weeks pregnant. And so I'd never been pregnant before. This was my first pregnancy. I might be in labor. Let's go to the hospital. But somewhere in my soul, I knew that something was horribly wrong. So they take us back to the trauma room, and that's when my OB came in, Christina Woods, Dr. Woods. And she said, your worst nightmare is happening, and today's baby's birthday. You're having an aortic dissection.
That was horrifying, especially when we found out they had to airlift her over there, that she was so serious that they were care flighting her over to the hospital. The thing that goes through your mind is we could lose 2 generations right here.
We had 14 minutes before care flight came to me. And that's when they sent in the chaplain. And that's when they told Kyle and I to say goodbye to each other. I'd only been married for 3 years. Then my OB came back in and we prayed, and then she asked us the tough question that we might have to choose between me and Jeffrey, my son. And if that were the case, who we were going to choose.
I do believe in fate. I do believe in the grace of God. I had a pretty hopeful degree of confidence that things were going to work out.
I get wheeled in, and there's 29 people in this room. At the time, it felt like 100. And then Dr. Poole comes up, and he's my heart surgeon, and he's all masked up and all that. And he said, can I pray with you? And I said, absolutely. So we prayed together, and he prayed for the Lord to give him strength and guidance. And then I was put under. And I don't remember saying this, but they told me that I said, you have to keep me alive because I have 2 boys to take care of, my husband and my son. I don't think I knew how serious it was. I'm glad I didn't. The first person I remember seeing are my sisters. I met Jeffrey the next day. I was very emotional. Before this all happened, I said, I do this for my mom because AJ saved her life, and who knows, one day it might save mine. And then it did. I mean, it truly did. And now I'm doing it for Jeffrey.
She owns it. It's a lot more personal now. It's a lot more personal.
Every family has something. This is ours.
We have to continue working to figure out what's causing it.
We know it's genetic. We don't know the marker.
You know, we've got all the genes that are there. We just have to understand them. It's like a puzzle.
What we might fund today, it might be in its very small stages of research, but could be the next breakthrough in 20 years that could save Jeffrey's life, or my sister, or I have a niece and a nephew. You know, it could save any one of those people. There are families all over the nation who have the same genetic markers that could lead to some sort of cardiovascular disease or stroke. That's why I'm on this quest to find these genes.
The joke in the family is that when you have to face something tough, that you call on your inner Meredith. And her mantra is that if you don't ask, people can't say yes.
Come on.
Wow.
I love that
Wow.
so much. Meredith,
Yes.
I'm calling on my inner Meredith. My inner Meredith is calling on your inner Meredith. Take us through.
Thank you so much for having me here. And I'm so honored to be the new CEO of the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. And the first thing I need to do is I need to thank you, Amy, not only on my behalf, but on behalf of everyone in this community. It's through your empathy and your willingness to share and your fierce persistence that we have gotten to where we are today. And I know after I dissected, I felt a little less lonely because your family had been so open with their story. So I wanted to tell you thank you from the bottom of my heart and let you know that every week I get an email from someone who was saved by John's story in the Ritter rules. So thank you. And really, thank you is not enough. I'm so grateful to you. We spoke before my dissection. We spoke after my dissection, and now you truly saved my life. So thank you. It's just not enough, but enough about me. People want to hear from you, Amy. So let's get to it. What do you think? Does that sound good?
Yes.
So
I feel like people hear from me way too much and all the time, but my big mouth and your big brain and everybody's big heart, we're changing the world.
But not big aortas, not big aortas.
No, normal size for our body mass indexed aortas. There's a little inside baseball talk there.
So Amy, we know why you started the foundation almost 20 years ago.
Ah,
But why do you keep it going?
because the families keep going. It's for the next generations of everybody who knows or does not know, or that is sadly unclear of what their aortic risk is, because they haven't had that talk with their doctor, or maybe even their doctor needs some education, which we're happy to, or they haven't visited our website, or they just don't know that maybe that's what somebody in their family actually passed away from, because that happens sometimes. So the next generation is going to be so much more educated than we ever were. And it's going to just be part of the lingo. And I think we have to do that. And it has to be also people who are not at risk that remind their friends and relatives of not just all of the advances we've made, but all that we are yet to do. So I need it, the ripple effect, the butterfly effect, or whatever it's called, and it's going to happen. And the other thing is, I mean, I didn't know when I when I found Dr. Diana Milowitz was doing this incredible work and research, I thought it was going to be, there will be a couple genes that we'll be able to look for, much like in breast cancer and other diseases. But I didn't realize that this research would be yielding, with her and other teams and teams that she's been on, dozens and dozens and dozens of gene mutations that we'd be able to look for, and it's ongoing. Thank goodness our families have not quite figured out their puzzle yet, but we are so working on it.
That's amazing. And yes, I know the community.
Well, that's the thing. And it's the community, but almost like everybody in the community is a volunteer. Everybody is volunteering their stories, their time, their sweat. I mean, Team Ritter, this is our 6th year of Team Ritter running in the New York Marathon, our 6th and raising funds. The first year was crazy, and Tyler Ritter and his wife Lulu were ready to go, and then Hurricane Sandy or somebody came, so they didn't have to run. Lucky them. But people have been running for us ever since, and raising awareness and raising funds. Another reason, why I do it.
That's so great to hear. Why you keep this going. It's so important. And I know there's other leaders that you have brought on board over the years that you've formed a lot of relationships with that are a part of your board of directors. So I was just going to kind of say thank you to them really quickly for all of their service. We have these committed group of volunteers that truly we couldn't do this without. No. And we're so grateful to them.
Indeed.
And then also to that point of Team Ritter, if you want to donate, you can go to the website today to donate to their team. The marathon is on November 7th, and here are our runners, many of whom have run for many, many years. So special shout out to Carmen, David, and Beth Hook for being the team captains this year.
Thank you, guys.
So when you look back at the foundation in the past almost 20 years, what are you most proud of?
Well, my kids, John's kids, helping me come to the understanding that it's okay to share this story and be able to kind of rally the community in a way that we all agree their dad would have. Had John survived this, if John had survived this, he would be part of this mission and going out and, pointing to people's chests and showing them where their aorta is. So the fact that all the kids and my family and the Morgans and the Ritters and the Nays and like all of it have come together to make this happen. And then it's expanded to your family and this family, that it's a community coming together to not just save their own little family members, but something that John always talked about, which is the family of man, humanity. We are all responsible for each other, and without making ourselves crazy and it's exhausting, you have to know that you are responsible for your brothers and sisters and your first cousins and your aunts and uncles and everybody, but which means everybody. So that's the fact that it's going global. How awesome.
Yes, the fact that it's going global has been so exciting to watch.
Yeah.
But again, you really built the foundation for this, and just watching this come to life over the past 20 years, but then also grow and become this really incredible thing. But you've been hinting at on social media and things about some changes that are happening within John Ritter Foundation that I know about. But I wanted to know if you're ready to dive in and kind of talk about the next steps that we're going to be taking as the foundation.
Being based in Hollywood as we are, we're getting a little bit of a facelift. I don't know. Hashtag Amy Yasbeck facelift, please. So Meredith, thank you for introducing us and bringing in the Johnson and Seacon, which is this incredible creative agency based in Dallas. A lot of good things are. And they have shaken things up a little bit and given us help with a new logo. And I love the new logo. And to look at it just in the kind of looks like a brand. JR. The J is upside down because it makes perfectly an aorta. Who knew? They knew. And we love it. And we're going to be plastering it all over everything.
That's so great. And
yeah,
I know that we worked with them to really kind of figure out what the next chapter is going to look like and how we're going to center it around who John was.
Yeah, right. And it's like, and not just like, this is so, because when people, it's part of the thing of like, why does it keep going? It's like, because so far, and I can see that this is the way to maintain this and grow this, and why I held it so closely and was terrible at delegating for so long until I met these wonderful board members and, you who understand what I'm talking about, is that I wanted it to have the values and priorities, but also kind of personality of John. Like, how do we think of John? And the kind of, he was very genuine, very funny, very persistent, loving, empowering, and really, really smart. He would play sometimes a kind of a silly person on TV, but he loved educate. He loved learning. He would watch any documentary about anything, even stuff he didn't care about, because he was fascinated by the person's passion who made it. So the storyteller in him, he was the best. He wasn't just great on stage. He was the best audience. If you were telling a story, or he was able to make that narrative come to life for himself. And so going forward, I really want to have a lot more stories and understand how they connect worldwide.
Yes. And I mean, it brings us to what we call our core values, right? It's exactly the words that you used for John, which is we are loving, we are empowering, we are courageous, genuine, and persistent.
Yeah.
And all the decisions that we're going to make going forward, we're always going to refer to these core values.
Right. Then we can't get too far off track, because we have a lot. We have this incredible burgeoning science, almost like science fiction, of computer learning and whole genome. But then let's not forget, it's about people and stories, and be able to put that together so the science really understands the people and the stories, science and scientists, and we really understand the science, and it meshes in like an even more powerful way.
Yeah. So I mean,
like Ghostbusters. What is it in Ghostbusters? They cross the streams. I don't know. Is that a thing? I don't know.
No idea.
I'm so much older than you. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, so How are we going to do it? What are our priorities?
So
if
like
you will?
to build this house, John Ritter house, the four walls, the pillars, the structure that keep it, there's four most important ones. And we need to educate, right? And when I say educate, I don't mean the people. I mean the people who educate the doctors and the doctors, and I know this from my friends, shout out to hashtag med Twitter, people that are residents or just are in school, sometimes they have to speak truth to power or someone over them and say, hey, I heard this thing about aortic dissection. Is this a thing? Or I know we used to do this. And so giving people kind of the power and the authenticity to go forward and be who they are in education. And we need to educate the general public so they can talk to their doctors about it. And the doctors, I don't know, I have the doctors on top and the people on the bottom. Lay people talking to their doctors talking to people and patients and families. We have to find a common language for that. We're working on it. And it's Spanish.
And in Spanish, yes.
Yeah.
And
for me, I'm learning Spanish, so I try to learn everything also in Spanish.
I love it. Well, and our friend Timo, he's really passionate.
That would be Swedish. That. Yes. Actually, we have everybody on board.
We do.
I know.
And what I think is really cool about this is that we want to make sure that we are all playing from the same playbook and providing good resources that are easy to understand, that they feel like they could find at any of our partners, which I think is really cool.
But Meredith, you know what I think is so cool about nowadays? I talk to you like you're a little child and I'm a old Mima, which I am, which is fine.
Yes,
yes, which is so books, textbooks, are stagnant things. The website, everyone's website, but for ours and our commitment to just update, has to be a living document of sorts because of Dr. Milowitz and others like her that are doing this research every day. And it's not just genetic research, it's on how best to treat this, when to treat this, what things, and with COVID, are certain things exacerbated? Can you wait a certain amount of time before getting your next? We're learning all this on the fly and in real time.
Right.
And so I love that you're going to be able to check back all the time and go, what's going on today? And of course, if we have you in our system or you're with the research program, they will be reaching out to you with your permission if things come about that have to do with your specific gene mutation or your case. But the fact that all this is alive and growing all the time, I love that. I'm trying to make it easy to understand for me.
Well, and yes. And I think you brought to a point something really important is that we're not the only people in this space doing this work. There's plenty of partners that we have.
Yes.
All over the world. And that kind of brings us to our next pillar, right? We're welcoming. We want to make sure that everyone's at the table with us and that we're at their tables to make sure that we're, again, playing from the same playbook. I think it's crucially important and it can help as many families as possible. And that's why we made this pillar such an important piece of who we are going forward. And I think by having all those people around the table and having the right information and educating, it is going to give people the authority, right, to take over their own health that you'll kind of speak to.
Will I, though? Well, here's the thing about so it's like agency over your own body, which we and the younger generations are learning much more about, from sad things and from happy things, that you have to be able to advocate for your own health and your family's health. But of course, you need to have some frame of reference or something to point to, because most lay people, when you're explaining to someone about science, or you need to have a set of rules or guidelines. And again, that could change and update all the time, to be able to speak with authority in ways that that won't be too, shocking to people, but it's okay. It's okay to shock them. And I think part of the authority is because of the people that we have on our team, and that we're still gathering more people all the time to work with us, and our board and our professional advisory board especially. But also when you have all these people working together and knowing what's up with each other, there's no time wasted of them accidentally duplicating each other's research, or it's like, this one gets like, got that, okay, we're working on that, we've got that result, we go like this, and it builds a lot faster and comes from board to bedside, or whatever that funny thing is, where it actually is happening in emergency rooms, in hospitals, the stuff that they cook up and research in their labs.
Well, and the names of all of our advisory board members, again, which is continuing to grow. What is always so eye-opening and so wonderful to me is their passion they have for getting the correct information out there and getting it to patients, and prevention, and getting the right resources. So these are our partners. They are inclusive. They are wonderful. I know that you nerd out with them, Amy, with all the medical stuff.
I prefer thinking of geeking out, but that's all right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I am. I'm known as the sponge. I can talk the talk. Sometimes I'll be in a conversation. I'm like, wow, I know what everybody's talking about. I'm so good at this. And then somebody else asks me a question. I'm like, it only happens when I'm in the room with all of them. Somehow they make me feel a lot smarter. But you do absorb so much just by listening in on their sharing information with each other too.
They've been so wonderful. And so thank you to the Ritter Professional Advisory Board that's listed here. Our gratitude is so much to you for that, for your time, talent, and treasure that you have given to us over the years. And then
did you say time, talent, and treasure?
I did.
I love that. More treasure, please.
We'll get to that, Amy. But I love that. So I think the next one kind of speaks most towards you and the family and the community that you've built of being a storyteller. So if you kind of want to talk about why this is really important to the foundation going forward.
Well, I mean, I touched on it before, but it's true. It is not without a cost to the storyteller, because the story, if you're telling a story about your own personal experience, and everybody in our family, you and I know, it never gets to where it's just by rote, blah, 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 and like you phone it in. It's like, there's no way when you're talking about your kids, your family, mortality, pain, grieving, and yet there is a connection there. It's a universal, loss is a universal thing. Fear about health is a universal thing. And also the idea that there's hope is everything. That's what keeps everybody going. And these stories are, no matter how tragic and sad these stories are, there's hopefulness because of the research, and that our kids won't have to suffer, and then their kids and their kids. So the stories all have a potential happy ending, and we're all kind of working towards the same thing. John said once, he said it several times though, in different things, about the golden thread of humanity that goes through all of us. And there's a way to share a story in the most eloquent way. It doesn't matter. Music, dance, art, storytelling, even the most clowning, not a big fan, but clowns and mimes, and everybody has art and storytelling, even the most clumsy way. And it kind of plucks that golden thread. And we all are like, oh, I recognize that. I understand what that is. I mean, it's what actors do. It's what everybody does in some way. And everyone has brought that to the fore and telling their stories. But there's also others of kind of storytelling, which is there has to be kind of beautiful, concise, and deft ways to talk about genetic stuff and this stuff. So it's like finding those ways and understanding that different people, and I don't even mean different languages, that's almost the easiest part for us to translate with our partners, but for different people and different points of view, how they will understand the science and bring it into their lives and community and pay it forward. Right?
Yes.
The other thing is, but still, while we're doing this, I never forget, and you know that every day, almost every day, I talk to people, either write them or talk to them. And it's interesting because the first like real wave I got of it was our board member, Cindy Ritter, who is my dear, dear, sweet friend, who's also a widow due to thoracic aortic dissection. And I'm like, how do we do grief groups? Do we have to make it? Because I really want it to be something like, this is for spouses. This is for if you lost a child, because this is a, equal opportunity tragedy when this happens, and children, anyone can have a thoracic aortic dissection depending on what their genetic load is. And we're figuring that out, how that works, because there's going to be a community where we all can talk about it. Then I think it helps to have, just be able to speak to someone who's lost a spouse or is caring for a spouse who's recovering, and to break it up in little ways, but to remember we're all one community. So look for that. That information is going to be coming. And Cindy Ritter and I are quite a pair. So yeah, good luck. There may be drinks on the Zoom calls is what I'm saying. I think that's what I'm saying.
Well, and I think it's so great. Cindy brought in some counselors that are trained in grief counseling. And so be on the lookout for these kind of support grief groups in the upcoming weeks. They will be smaller and intimate, but like Amy said, we're all going to be one community. So, right. I'm so excited about that piece. I think it's going to really be exciting. And I know it's very personal to Cindy, and she is really spearheading it.
Cool.
So now we've talked about, the support pillars of how we're going to do it. So I think this next piece is your favorite part. So Amy, I'll pass it to you.
Is my favorite part?
Yes.
Oh, okay. My favorite piece of these three hunks, because it goes for everything in everybody's job, but when you think of it in terms of what we're doing, is our mission, our vision, and our purpose to like keep us headed towards the main goal. And the other things we talk about are ways and means and styles of how to get there and how to gather people, but we have to keep to our mission, to our vision, and to our purpose. And our vision is to raise awareness of thoracic aortic disease through research, education, and advocacy. Radical advocacy. Make good trouble. That's what I like to say. And our vision is to make thoracic aortic disease a routine part of the doctor-patient conversation. Because sometimes when you bring it up to your doctor, like, wait, what, why, what? It's like, it should be on their, side differential to talk about, and it should be up to you to talk about it as well. And our purpose is to prevent unnecessary suffering caused by the unknown. And I think all of us have been hit with a lot of suffering caused by someone's risk not being known to them, not known to the doctors, or family members not knowing. So it's about having clarity, knowing that knowledge is power, and that power of knowledge can prevent the unnecessary suffering in the future. All right?
Wow.
Okay.
I love that statement.
I know. Well, it's surprising how many people don't think that the word suffering might be a little dramatic. And listen, it's not. And we all do it in our own ways. And we all do it, whether it's something we can see, like your beautiful scar, and go, hey, this lady has a story. This lady suffered. We all have beautiful scars. Not all of them are visible. So that's my favorite thing, preventing unnecessary suffering. Okay. Anyway, that's it. We talk a lot, but you can call and talk to us. We're on the phone lines. Thank you for letting me share like this new chapter, and thank you for what would you call it? Ringing in the new year, ringing in the new chapter, Meredith, you. While we gather our special guests, please consider donating today to our incredibly important mission. Visit www.johnritterfoundation.org.
Or you can scan the QR code that's on your screen. Just pull
There's a
out
QR code on our screen?
There is. You just pull out your phone, you get your camera out, you point it to the QR code, it'll take you directly there.
Are you telling me that because I'm a boomer?
Perhaps. I mean, I didn't say that.
We know what a QR code is going forward. Meredith, you're in charge of QR codes.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate hearing from you exactly what the vision is going forward. Thank you for going on that journey with me. And now I'm super pumped because we have some really great people joining us.
They're okay.
I mean, they're pretty cool. We have Jason Ritter. Hi, Jason.
Hello.
And Tyler Ritter with us.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, guys.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
I wish we had a live studio audience so you could hear all the cheers. I'm sure they are.
Everybody settle down, settle down. We have to hear.
Thank you.
Take that.
I figured I'd look a little more professional for this one. So, like, isn't that what news anchors do? They always
Yes. Yes. Stack your papers.
Yep.
Right. That's right. Well, I appreciate you guys coming. Oh, very important.
Very important. Very sophisticated.
You are. You're so sophisticated. And you guys have welcomed me into the Ritter family with open arms. And so I also need to thank you for not only allowing me into your family, but for sharing your father with all of us.
Oh, thank you, Meredith. You've been incredible for the foundation. We're lucky to have you at the helm.
Yeah, it's true. You've been such a wonderful addition. You've energized the whole group of us, and we're the lucky ones.
I will be making you a Christmas stocking. It's official.
That sounded like a threat.
That is, and it will be full of coal.
Yeah.
We're rough on each other, but we love each other. Welcome to the family.
Oh, it seems perfect. So, okay. This question is going to be for all of you. But I'm going to start with Tyler.
Ooh.
So are you ready, Tyler?
So she has favorites.
What has been the most eye-opening part of being involved with the John Ritter Foundation?
Well, we're going on about 18 years strong now. I think looking back on all those years, just certainly the sheer size of this disease and how many families are affected by it is the most eye-opening, especially considering that 19 years ago, I had never heard of an aortic dissection or even really of an aorta. I couldn't have pointed one out. And so to see where we are now, 19 years later, energizing a base, bringing a community together. Early on, we would get a couple of emails of people who were suffering as we're talking about suffering alongside with us. And it was just sort of devastating to learn about this disease and how many people it was affecting. And then as knowledge was spread throughout the country and world, we've been receiving more and more letters of people being saved by by this. So, my eyes continue to be reopened over and over again. And it seems like generally we're on the right track.
No, but what the thing that he said about don't exactly know about where the aorta is, yeah, right. I mean, it's not something, but it's the thing that I talking to doctors, and of course, you go to med school, you know where the aorta is, but talking about aortic dissection, they would say to me, well, when I was taught, and this is some people recently, they'd say it's so rare that it would happen that if somebody comes in with chest pain, like the old adage, if you hear hoofbeats, don't start looking for a zebra, like treat the most. Well, now we know it's so bad when you treat an aortic dissection as you would a heart attack or something else that would cause chest pain, that we kind of really need to put the aorta on the map. I'm an aorta supporter, but the aorta itself, aorta support hashtag. Thanks, Miss Boomer. I don't know what you just did just then. Little rabbit foo-foo, I thought it was. I didn't know what that was. But the aorta needs a publicist, just aorta in general. And so we're thinking of ways to do that. But that has been the most, as I'm talking to people and they're going, now, so by aorta, you mean, I'm like, I mean the part that comes out of your heart. Your heart can be perfect and everything else can be perfect. But if your heart is pumping blood into this faulty aorta, all hell breaks loose. So that's it. Jason, what has opened your eyes, kiddo?
What? Well, I mean,
he's very literal.
I've opened my eyes. Usually just the sort of my eyelid muscles, but sometimes I use my fingers. No.
Is it too late to get the other two kids in on here instead?
That's going to be another piece of coal there. Man, the stockings are filling up.
Wow.
No, I think my eyes have been open over and over again, like Ty's too. I didn't really know that it was a genetic thing. I thought it was sort of the way that it was sort of described initially as like you were saying, a freak thing. Just like no one could have ever seen it coming, just like one of those, horrible accidents that just happens. And and like Tyler said, the more I found, the more people knew about it, and the more people had their lives saved by just the knowledge that it's out there. It's like, yeah, sure. If you hear hoofbeats, is that what it's called? Hoofbeats?
I don't know. Hoofbeats, I don't know.
If you hear hooves,
it would behoove you.
It would
not
behoove you to, like it. Right. You think it's a horse. Don't start looking for a zebra unless you're in the savannah. And then you should think you should be maybe thinking it's a zebra. So I think a lot of the.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Thank you for confusing the message.
No, I'm just saying, like, the more knowledge you have, then you can go, actually, in my family, we do look for zebras.
That's exactly right.
Right.
My chair has fluff on it, and I apologize if you see things in the air. Jason, here's something I think is so cool about you. Sorry, Tyler, you can sit it out for a minute.
See you guys later. It was fun.
But Jason, the work that you do with Huntington's disease and how that community and how they are understanding so much about genetics and genetic risk, and I'm really inspired by that. And American Cancer Society for Breast Cancer, the way that narrative is told in all the different ways about what a genetic risk is, I think is really helpful for all medical communities in general, but especially ours. I mean, it's a really good template. So thank you for the work you do there too.
Oh, well, I mean, I think in general, genetics, it's like a huge wild west right now out there, where exploring and getting new information, and each new piece of information we have arms us even more. So yeah, it's all connected, and it's exciting to be on the forefront of making these.
Yeah, you're just, a lot of stuff. You have authority.
You do. In fact, I kind of wanted to go back to something that you said, was that, a lot of people think that this is kind of a freak one-off thing when somebody has a dissection in their family. So if you thought that originally, or if you could dive a little deeper, what made you suspicious that maybe it was genetic?
So yeah, kind of like you were saying in your video, there was this big bad wolf, but the main difference is in your story, you knew the big bad wolf was aortic dissection. What we had heard growing up, what my dad believed and what we all believed, was that the man and his family had all died of their first and last heart attack. That was like the legend of, that was what we heard over and over and over again. And so we were like, well, this is great. Here's the generation where we stop it, because, we've come so far. People have heart attacks all the time and survive, So we were all like, we were all armed.
Shout out to American Heart Association on that. Right.
Yeah, we were all really like
educated.
Come at us, we're ready. Like, and then it was this whole other thing, and it was a similar thing actually with his father, Tex, because they caught it pretty early. It was weird that he didn't survive that heart attack. They should have been able to even save his life if it was a heart attack. And so we started to suspect that perhaps it was a genetic thing in our family.
After your dad died.
After dad died, and we found out what it was. And
but
like, actually started putting the pieces together. So then we all started getting scanned.
Right.
And
on Dr. Milowitz's recommendation.
Yeah.
Like right away, and then yearly, because we didn't know whether it was genetic or not.
We didn't know,
but you kind of have to behave as if, just in case.
Yeah, you definitely want to be as cautious as possible.
Yeah. But there's also a lot of wishful thinking when something like that happens in the family, and you just, especially, I at least was a teenager still, and you're feeling like this can't possibly be happening. So to start going to checkups was, it was scary, but more than anything. It didn't feel empowering like it does now.
Right.
It was just like, the less I know, ignorance was bliss. But then in 2007, our dad's brother, our Uncle Tommy, went in for an echo, and they saw that his aorta was growing. There was a growing, aneurysm there.
Right in the same spot as John's was.
In the same exact spot. And so because they caught it, they knew exactly what it was. Right. They were able to perform a surgery on that segment of the aorta and save his life. And so from that point on, it was sort of like re-slammed in our face.
Yeah, it kind of makes you go, okay, I get it.
All right, fine, we'll do the yearly checkups. Yeah, chances are now.
The thing that it is not just treatable, like so many things that are genetic, including Huntington's, which Jason educates me about that. I don't know as much about it as I should, but certain things that are treatable, but not, like there's burgeoning science for that too. But in this instance, if somebody comes up and they have an aneurysm and they're however old they are, and that they can just, okay, let's fix that part of your aorta, and then you're kind of good to go. You still are able to like pass the risk because you still have that gene to your kids. But the fact that you can literally save someone's life and kind of reset them back to where they were before, that's pretty amazing. Well, and Tommy is back to right where he was before.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the sort of amazing and sort of also tragic thing is like, after dad passed, we learned all this information. It was like we found the weapon that could fell the dragon that got him. And all it is just knowledge.
That's exactly right.
Just knowing about it and then being able to say, being able to do the checkups, being able to ask your doctor about it. And it just was like, if only somehow it had been known that Tex
Jason,
but there was no autopsies, it just was like.
I don't think you have met Dr. Estrera yet, and you will in Houston. he said something when I first met him, because I just, called everybody and blah, blah, blah. And which was there's pre-John Ritter awareness and post-John Ritter awareness. And that John died in the last moments of pre-John Ritter awareness. Like when he died, people started going, do I have the John Ritter thing? And even that helped. But anyone who has an aortic aneurysm or aortic dissection or the risk now is able to benefit from the loss of John and the world's loss of John, because it made a lot of people sit up and go, wait a minute, what did my sister die of? Yeah. They said it was kind of near the heart. Is that an aortic? And people going, it sucks.
It does suck. But
that's the thing. But yeah,
I think it's important. I know a lot of families who even before we sort of had more of an understanding of which things are genetic or which aren't.
Yeah.
Oh, the men in my family or the women in my family or this happened. There was like this. These
like a family curse.
Yeah, like a family curse. And I think it's important now to, if you have that in your family, to especially concerning heart attacks or anything that's sort of generically about the heart or cardiovascular, to look into those things and make sure that it's not this that you just didn't know that you were talking
part
about.
Of the things is when you go to the genetic counselor, and you're describing your family history, sometimes they say, do you have an aortic dissection? Has anyone died from an aortic dissection or in your family? And you go, nope. And they go, have there been any unexplained early deaths in your family? You go, well, there's this, and this. And sometimes the more you explore that, you go, yeah, there was no reason for everybody out in the field, all the women at 45 fall off their tractor and die. And it's like, wait, what if they are dying and that's why they fall off their tractor? And you're like, oh, because you think of it again, and that's the narrative part and the story part. Everybody has their family stories and histories, and all of those need to be, well, not all of them. Let's let some sleeping dogs lie. But for medical history, those things really need to be investigated or to expand what it could have been when you're speaking to a genetic counselor. Tyler, are you still there, or have you got?
Yeah, no,
I have a question for Tyler, actually, because I talk about genetics, which is extremely important with the John Ritter Research Program. I know that y'all have kids, right? Like Tyler, you have kids, Jason has kids, Carly has kids. How are you protecting your children now? How are you getting ahead of this for them?
Well, you can probably hear my son. He's been banging on the door for the last 10 minutes. So, yeah, you can hear him. He
seems fine, actually.
He's Batman right now, right? But, it is, as he tries to get in here, it's another reminder of how important this work is to me, and I imagine to anyone else with family. And the first thing I can do for him is to take care of myself. And my wife helps remind me of that as well, of like every decision we make now, it's not just about us, it's about them. And this, something that could be, genetic and passed down more than anything. And so until we know if I have the mutation, as that's being investigated, until we know, I'll continue to get checkups. And meanwhile, for him, his doctors will always know, we'll talk to the doctors about the Ritter rules, which are lifesavers. And, for me, even when I was 20, I had doctors talking to me about exercise and lifting weights that were too heavy, and just to, keep a eye out on some of those things, some, dietary things that I didn't necessarily need to cut out, but just to, just moderation in general was key until we figure out what our situation is.
Right.
But I think it starts, it's like you're on the plane, you put the mask on yourself before you put it on the kid. I always remember being a kid and thinking, wait, that doesn't make sense. I shouldn't. But now it's dawned on me. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a hard one to remember. Yeah. And like with the can I just say like stuff about the genetic syndromes? I mean, there are some people that you can almost, that experts can tell because they have a syndrome like Marfan-Ehlers, vascular Ehlers-Danlos, known as VEDS, Loeys-Dietz, bicuspid aortic disease, Turner syndrome, where there may be physical outward characteristics. So somebody with that, phenotype, as they call it, I said a word, #phenotype, goes into an emergency room with chest pain, somebody might be able to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have this familial thoracic aortic, it's not going to show who has it and who doesn't. So you don't have those physical characteristics. So you need to be able to throw out your family history if there's a suspicion, or some of the people we know that we actually know have been able to know their gene mutation. It's been identified. Our family's hasn't yet, Meredith's, unless you have an announcement. Your family's hasn't, but dozens and dozens and dozens and more will. But until that, you do kind of have to kind of behave as if, like I said, like the kids were saying, the boys were saying about you get the scans and you just let the doctors know that you're in this study, and it's a safety net,
Yeah,
it is. Well, I'm going to actually, this has been fascinating, and I just love hearing from you guys and how open you are. But I'm going to kind of switch gears because of what you guys talked about a little bit earlier. Sometimes knowledge is all you need. That's the weapon to fell the dragon, as Jason said, which was
it's very dramatic.
But that's why we're doing this week. We are in Aortic Dissection Awareness Week. This is something that has been around for a while, started by Timo over in Sweden, and has become a worldwide phenomenon. And so, or at least we're going to make it that. So with that, I know we're doing something exciting. So Amy, why don't you tell us a little bit about one of the things that we want you to participate in, our audience?
#Purple Pinky Promise. Aren't we clever? Here's the thing.
Ooh, Jay, smart.
Wait, let's see Jason. Jason did his with a
first
Sharpie.
attempt on the other one to see if that would make it look any better, because it
Jason,
only
let's
had
see.
the Sharpies. Well, this is the one that I rubbed, and this is the original one, but now it's been rubbed off onto this one.
It just looks like you don't know how to operate car doors, and you just keep your finger in and slam it. But anyway, it'll be real pretty when we Photoshop that. But the #Purple Pinky Promise is making the promise, showing your purple pinky, which is also a little reminder, making a pinky promise that you will talk to your doctor about your family's aortic health. And you can shout out to a couple people and make them promise too. But we have a little social media, what do we call it?
Social media, what?
Social media shout out that we're all going to be making promises. And we'll send you nail polish if you don't have purple nail polish, but you can also use a Sharpie like Jason did.
I used to.
Red and blue make purple, in theory. And it's just important that we remember and that we promise each other, okay, right, when I go to the doctor, I'm going to talk about this. I'm also going to be talking to a lot of doctors and healthcare providers, and I am going to make them also promise that they talk to us. Anyone can initiate the conversation. You just have to pinky promise, that would be purple pinky promise, that you will speak to your healthcare provider about thoracic aortic dissection and aortic dissection risk. #boomer.
I know you guys are really talking to some of your friends too, that we all might know their names to join us in this movement. So I'm really excited. Got that. I've got my nail polish right here. So
excellent.
I'll be painting everyone's nails that I know. So
yes, it's going to be very
more
confusing.
So much more that you can do to support us. So Tyler, everybody kind of rapid fire. How can people support us?
Well, you can go to the website. You can donate on the website. You can
subscribe to the newsletter.
There's buttons. Yeah, there's a button.
There's a donate button.
Go to the website and click all the buttons.
Yes.
Wow. And this is why I don't go on elevators with you anymore. Do you hear me, Jason?
What'd you say?
That's why we don't go on the elevators with you anymore. You click all the buttons. You're
It's
very
so satisfying.
It is so satisfying.
You can make the John Ritter Foundation your preferred charity on Amazon Smile.
That really adds up. That's crazy.
And that's a really good
like I've had teachers tell me that they have to, when they're buying their supplies on Amazon or stuff, they just put in John Ritter Foundation on Amazon Smile, which is easier than I thought it was. I was like, I can't figure it out. So it's way easier than I thought it was. And so we get a little piece of that every time. It really adds up. It's great. And you can support our Aortic Health partners.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And you can sign up and bid on our online auction this week.
Ah, yes.
That's a big one.
That's a good one.
There's a lot
Wait
of real
till you
cool
see
stuff there.
the John Ritter Three's Company script. You guys, should I go ahead? Should I with a Sharpie take out the parts where he was drawing things that look maybe dirty, or no? Just leave all that in?
No, leave it all in.
Back when this meant tic-tac-toe, but it's so, because it's got all of his like notes and stuff in it and little exclamation points. And just the thing that, you know how Dad always, I know it wasn't my dad, John, like fill in the letters.
Oh yeah,
like
little,
all of the, I don't know what that is, but anyway, all of his little idiosyncrasies, very sweet. And it's hard for us to let go of a script, but we know that we're going to raise a lot of money with it. And maybe we can do a dramatic reading of it.
Ooh.
Okay. Yeah, I want to be Joyce DeWitt, just in general. Don't forget to make the purple pinky promise.
Yeah, and there's a
Go
bunch
on,
of
Jason.
events going on all week, so
Yes.
You'll gain all the awareness you could possibly use, and you can spread it around to your friends.
Yes. And we're going to put a slide up of this schedule at the end. But right before we do that, we're going to finish up with 1-sentence answers from each of you guys. We're going to start with Tyler.
Again?
What do you hope everyone will take away from our chat today?
I hope that everyone is inspired and has learned something that they're excited to share with somebody else. Hope, and a doctor, hopefully, as well. That there's something you can take with you that makes you feel like you have a little more control over your destiny and your loved ones. And you take it all the way to the doctor's office and to your friends.
Jason.
I hope that people take away from the chat that there is a very simple way to stay around for as long as possible for your family and your friends and your children and your parents and your siblings, and that if you can avoid if you can avoid this thing, which is very easily avoidable as long as you know what you're looking for and you know what to talk to your doctors about, you don't have to put your family and friends through the grief that goes on when you lose someone. And it's especially painful when you lose someone unnecessarily, that may not have needed to be lost without the information that they could have had.
I feel like what I most want people to take away from today, and it surprises me every time, but it's that, you knew John. People knew John from his work. And a lot of times they're like, well, what was he really like? I'm like, a lot like that. Just the entertainment part, but that the part of this legacy of John is that people will be saying his name to help save their lives so they can go on and be funny and goofy with their families. And that John, in so many ways, lives on, but he will also kind of live on through this and through you guys, kids, all 4 of you kids, because genetics is not just aortas and things. It also has to do with you're so much like him. And by watching you guys, I can see how he would have, you know what I mean? Like been on this journey and been with us on this. And it always feels like a little visit with him when I get to see you guys. Call me more often is what I'm trying to say. That is all. Meredith, you call me less, please.
Okay. Well, no.
Love you guys.
So with that, I want to thank you all for joining us. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in today. Make sure to sign up for the rest of the webinars, and thank you to Tyler and Jason and Amy for, again, not only sharing their time and their talent and their treasure, but also sharing the man that was such a big part of their life. Thank you again. See you next time.
Bye, Meredith.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Meredith.